The national male god is a girl, boss fancy pet chapter 1, play with you to the end. Pretend to die. Wake up. Wow. Pouring her head down with ice water, a student girl picked up the boy on the ground and sneered, still pretending to be dead. Strip him naked. The girls around leaned forward with grim faces, but before their hands touched, the fainted person opened his eyes suddenly. The dark eyes are dull and cold, and the trembling sharpness of the eyes condenses. The girls who surrounded her were startled, and suddenly took a step back. She squinted her eyes. The mercenary's intuition quickly made her realize that everything in front of her was not right. Several female students in school uniforms surrounded her, all of them like little sisters, dyed golden hair, staring at her with disdain. There are dusty sports equipment scattered all around, which should be a disused sports warehouse. Strange, shouldn't she hunt down a group of vicious terrorists on the border? Why is it in the school's abandoned warehouse? Look at the fart, you disgusting sissy. Yes, tell you, stay away from the school grass, that is Sister Zhengran's boyfriend. What the hell? What are these people talking about? And what is going on now? Damn, I feel sick when I see her, give her a taste. Several sisters burst into laughter. Someone picked up a dirty bucket with black and yellow sewage tumbling, while the sisters on both sides pressed her arms to the left and right, and pressed them firmly. Pour on the head, pour on the head. The ridicule became louder and louder, and everyone was waiting to see her making a fool of herself. But no one noticed that there was a bloodthirsty stern across the boy's dark eyes. There was a little heat coming from the neck, and the weak body felt a trace of strength slowly soaking into the body. Although he was puzzled, Xiaoxi lowered his gaze as he looked at the getting closer and closer, and hit him directly. Hooked her arm violently, and the elder sister who was suppressed from the left and right was brought over unexpectedly. With a bang, her heads slammed into each other, and she immediately caught the golden star in her eyes. One kick kicked the person who was in the way aside, and Xiaoxi squatted and swept neatly against the dirty bucket. Boom! Wow! The black and yellow sewage was poured down her head, and the lady was drenched from her head to her feet. A strong smell came out, and people around her immediately covered her mouth and nose. Fuck, how did this weak chicken who had been bullied by them suddenly changed into a person? A few sisters stared at her dumbfounded. Xiaoxi slowly stood up, and her icy, knife-like gaze quietly swept everyone's face. Everyone's heart trembles violently, and the knife-like vision is so sharp that the scalp numb of the few ladies can't help. Dead, die perverted, her, vomit. The filthy elder sister couldn't help vomiting loudly anymore. Only then did the surrounding elder sisters react and rushed over screaming. Wanna die? Okay, then it will fulfill you. Kicked her legs and feet fiercely, with only a few bangs, all the sisters were laid down, clutching their stomachs and lying on the warehouse floor, screaming and screaming. Xiaoxi straightened up slowly, took a long leg, and walked directly to the sink, where there was a row of dirty buckets with a strong smell. Presumably these are all prepared for her. She hooked the corner of her mouth, picked up the bucket without hesitation, and turned around, her dark eyes swept across the moaning people on the ground coldly. Xiaoxi, what are you going to do? Tai Mei looked horrified. The boy carrying the bucket was cold and fierce, and his eyes were gloomy and raging, making people tremble. Xiaoxi smiled slightly, her delicate facial features conjured a dangerous gloom. Provoke me again, this is the end. After speaking, raise your hand and splash water. Wow! Ha! Screaming sounded from the warehouse instantly. The ladies are going crazy, what the is going on with this weak sissy? Oh! Also, this dirty water is really stinking. The national male god is a girl, boss fancy pet chapter 2, hush fee. Throwing the last bucket on the ground, Xiaoxi indifferently glanced at the wet Tai Mei, and walked slowly to the sink. The young boy's slender body was reflected in the mirror, his dark curly hair was fluffy and soft, his ears were lined with stud earrings, his obviously young face was wearing thick foundation, and his mouth was obviously painted with lipstick. What kind of dress is this? A good face, it was so ruined. Frowned, Xiaoxi lowered her head to rinse off the makeup on her face. At this time, a memory that did not belong to her also slowly flowed into her mind. This body is also called Xia, a sophomore in high school. I don't know why, but a girl has to be raised as a boy. Recently, the fact that her half-sister loves men has made Ben unpopular. People are getting spurned more and more. That's why we were blocked in a gang fight in the abandoned warehouse today, right? Wiped clean the water drops on her face, Xia straightened up. A clear and handsome face was reflected in the mirror. A pair of black eyes are clearly visible, the facial features are beautiful and smooth, from the bridge of the nose to the chin, every inch is exquisite and impeccable. She rubbed her chin and rubbed her curly hair casually. This action made the moaning sisters startled. The posture of the hair is so handsome. And, is that sissy curvy guy so good-looking? Glancing at the dazed Taime, Xia put one hand in her pocket and walked out the door. Unexpectedly, those people who got her fist still had the strength to look at her. Sure enough, it's because this body is too weak. Stepped out of the warehouse, and it turned out to be the school playground outside. At the end, you could even see the teaching building with bright windows. Sure enough, I'm reborn as a student, but it's not bad to be 10 years younger. Xia hooked the corner of her mouth, turned her head, but was facing a pair of dark but deep eyes. He was a very handsome boy, with handsome eyebrows, and his facial features were as natural as a knife, and he exuded the indifference that a stranger shouldn't get close to. Xia blinked her eyes and looked back at the door of the warehouse hole. Oops, only the first day after crossing, she was seen fighting. If it had been before, she would have killed people, but now it seems that she can't do that. So she walked over calmly, supporting the dilapidated wall with one hand, smiling at the corner of her mouth, and lowered her head to meet the boy's dark eyes. I was forced. If someone wants to beat you, I can't be beaten passively, right? This lazy and disdainful look is very handsome. If the sister sees it, she will blush and heartbeat, but unfortunately, the warrior, acquaintances dare not approach, let alone a stranger. Zhan Yu looked away indifferently, with a face of indifference that turned away thousands of miles away. Xia shrugged her shoulders, reached out her hand and took out her cloth pocket. She didn't have a dime, she only took out a bag of fudge. This is for you, the hush fee. Throwing the jelly over at will, Xia smiled slightly. If you want money, you are welcome to come to me at any time. The key class, Sumi. Randomly broke a pseudonym, Xia left calmly. At present, she doesn't want to get involved with this person. Looking at the fruit jelly in his arms, Zhan Yu twitched his mouth. Give him a hush fee? Is his expression for a hush fee? It's obviously an expression to make her roll. Young Master Zhan, did you see it? A shocking counterattack. Is that still the little young master in the circle who can't get his hands on it? In the distance, Ling Haotian rushed over with joy, and pointed his finger at Xia's back. Yes, Master Su also has the skill of a mercenary. Zhan Yu narrowed his eyes, and he could see clearly from the window. What Su Xiao? That is not the famous Xia Xiao in the circle. Ling Haotian looked puzzled. Xia is such a famous idiot, but no one knows it. Zhan Yu directly threw the soft candy over. Here it is, the hush fee. Hush fee? What the hell? Haven't you never eaten sweets? Where does the sugar come from? The national male god is a girl. Boss Fancy Pet Chapter 3, Can't Understand People. Follow the memory and walk into the teaching building, and you can see the students coming and going. One by one is very young. But when she saw her, someone was obviously taken aback, and some even forgot to look at the road and ran into a friend next to her. Why hit me? No, don't you think Xia seems a bit different today? That pervert, even if it's cleaned, it's also perverted. Go away, be careful of being infected. The man nodded. Xia is indeed a pervert. This is what Xia Zhengran said. As a key class cadre, there is definitely nothing wrong with this. People stepped aside, not wanting to get involved with her at all. Xia didn't care, until she was blocked in the corridor. Feng Feng, who was strong and physically strong, stared at Xia fiercely. Someone just said that the Taime he sent out was beaten by this abnormality. He didn't believe it at first. After all, this abnormality is so weak that he even mentioned it to himself. The shoes don't match. But now looking at Xiaoxi standing here intact, Feng Feng suddenly believed. Fuck, so awesome. Can still beat his Taimei down on the ground. A good dog does not stand in the way. Xiaoxi glanced at Feng Feng lightly, her eyes dark. Grass, what did you say? Feng Feng is angry, this weak chicken dared to provoke Feng Feng. I don't know this school, who has the final say? Oh, you are a dog, you must not understand human words. You owe a beating. Feng Feng Yang is about to punch, and the surrounding students are not used to it. Besides, Xiaoxi has no friendship with them, so no one stepped forward to stop him. Isn't just being beaten. Which person in the school has not been beaten by Feng Feng? No more than staying in a hospital for 10 days and a half month at most. Even in a school, you can still see that the world is cold. However, Xiaoxi didn't plan to have someone help herself, she just stared at the falling fist coldly and sneered. What are you doing? Wen Zhuo hurried over with the book, she is the teacher of the key class. Feng Feng, back to your normal class, this is not the place you should come. Seeing that the teacher is coming, Feng Feng gave a sigh, pointed his finger at Xiaoxi, gave a little bit of air, and said, you wait for me. Hit the people under him, and wanted to get out of his body, there was no door. Feng Feng took people away, and the students filed back to the classroom to prepare for class. There are not many people who care about Xiaoxi's changes. The key classes focus on learning. Even though there is no class, everyone still bows their heads and reads hard. Sometimes someone raised his head and glanced at Xiaoxi. After a little startled, he lowered his head and stopped responding. Xiaoxi can enter the elite class. It is the family who spent money. To put it bluntly, it is the related household. If calculated according to the results, this person is destined to be the bottom even if he enters the ordinary class. Therefore, the students in the key classes are very contemptuous of this related household. Isn't it just having a good family? Ha, scum. Someone rolled their eyes and continued to study hard. Xiaoxi returned to her seat, and Zhang Lily in the front row suddenly turned her head and gave her a vicious look. Sister Jingran is not here, don't think you can be lawless. Xiaoxi rolled her eyes. What the hell? Is the head sick? Is it time to take medicine? Xiaoxi said, Zhang Lily's face was red and her ears were red. Fuck, why is this scum so horrible today? Obviously, I was about to cry when I was called into the warehouse. But no matter how she is today, she will let her know that in the key class, Sister Jingran has the final say. The national male god is a girl, Boss Fancy Pet Chapter 4, Idiot, I have powers. Before class, let's take a quiz to see how well everyone has mastered this year's content. Wen Shuo put down the textbook and said loudly. There was a burst of sadness under the podium, and some people were even lying on the table, and there was no hope of life. Just take the test before class. Dying. When the papers were issued, the students all had a bitter face and a few good students. They only glanced at them and answered the questions, all with a look on their chests. The paper was sent to her hand, and Xiaoxi glanced quickly, frowning slightly. She almost forgot that although the student time was wonderful, it was mixed with gloomy exams. She hasn't studied for a long time. The paper in front of her looked familiar to all the questions, but she couldn't answer any of them. Zhang Lily glanced back at her and suddenly laughed. Look, the scum is scum. What if she is stronger? Isn't your head still stupid? Last year's results were the last one in the whole year, and the physics results were nothing but 0. That's why she can answer this little quiz. Zhang Lily, what are you laughing at? Wen Zhuo patted the table. Teacher, don't let Xiaoxi take the test, she must be a 0 egg, let her answer the question must be embarrassing to her. Huh, yes, teacher, you might as well give her the answer directly. The students laughed. Xiaoxi's results are obvious to all. She was able to enter the city's key school. I heard that the family paid for the money and walked through the back door. They can only get into the city's key points by working so hard. People can also get in with money. This difference makes many students have opinions on Xia Shi. So now everyone is gloating at her, waiting for her to make a fool of herself. It's good to have money. Even idiots can go to key high schools. Not only is she an idiot, she is also a pervert. I am afraid that she paid a lot more money than others. Enough, hurry up and answer the questions, you only have 10 minutes. Wen Zhuo patted the table, and the students turned back to continue the exam. Zhang Lili smiled triumphantly at her, deadly perverted, if you can get a correct answer, I will stand and listen to class in the future. Xia Shi raised her eyelids carelessly, her hanging eyes full of violence. To shut up. Zhang Lili opened her mouth. She really couldn't say a word. Fear made her instinctively weak. She could only grit her teeth and cursed in her heart 200 times while answering the questions. The dead pervert is so good at pretending, you wait for my old lady to get a full score, and torture you as a scum. Xia Shi rubbed her eyebrows and glanced at the exam questions. Is she a mercenary who is not afraid of bullets and bullets? Is she really going to be on a small test today? Looking around again, those top students are already struggling to write. The distance is a bit far away, if you are close, you might still be able to see the answer. Xia Shi played with the pencil, looked back, and landed on the paper. On the blank scroll, rows of answers suddenly appeared, neatly written and very fast. What happened? Why does the answer come out by itself? The scorching temperature came from her neck, she subconsciously touched it, and grabbed a piece of red blood jade. This is the blood jade that she has always worn on her body in her previous life. Unexpectedly, she was reborn, but the blood jade came along. It seems that this blood jade is what gives her strength in the toilet. This jade is a family heirloom, with a special ability. How many times the life hangs, it is the jade that saved her life. And the answer is that the blood jade is copied from others. Xia Shi hooked up the corner of her mouth, holding up a pen and writing a book. This body is too weak, and the blood jade's ability can't be activated for too long, she has to answer the question quickly. The national male god is a girl, Boss Fancy Pet Chapter 5, Become a Shuaba. The answer is displayed line by line, and the speed is very fast, it will disappear in almost 10 seconds, and continue to display the next line, and the shorter the display time of the answer. Xia Shi frowned, and could only stop writing. Staring at the answers that keep appearing and disappearing. As the strongest mercenary, she has a very strong memory. She used to remember tasks before, but she did not expect to remember answers now. Until all the answers were displayed, Xia Shi began to answer the questions. The surroundings were terribly quiet, only the rustle of writing was endless. Wen Zhuo wandered around, looking at the students' test papers, nodding or shaking her head, and when she stood beside Xia Shi, she was stunned. The first question, yes, the second question, yes, the third question, yes. Right. Right. They are all right. Wen Zhuo felt that she must have been awake, she rubbed her eyes vigorously, and then looked at it again, the whole story is still correct. How could this be? She stared at Xia Shi's face subconsciously, staring desperately. This person, wouldn't it be Xia Shi's twin brother or something? Teacher, is there anything on my face? Xia Shi raised her head, her dark eyes were radiant, her pen-turning gesture was so careless, her white and slender fingers flipped flexibly, as if a flower blossomed between her fingers. Wen Zhuo actually blushed. She picked up her paper in a little embarrassment, and looked up and said, "Okay, it's time, you guys swap back and forth, correct each other, and the class representative will go up and write the answer." Hearing this, the quiet classroom sounded all kinds of ghosts and wolves howling, good students laughed and didn't care, and poor students looked hopeless. Zhang Lili slapped her paper on Xia Shi's table with a proud face, and gave her a provocative look. Although she did not answer a few questions, she is confident that she must have done better than this sissy. Scanning the paper on the table, Xia Shi picked a red pen, bowed her head, and appraised the paper. "Hey, what are you doing? The answer has not been written yet." Zhang Lili is in a hurry, is this person going to cheat? But Xia Shi ignored her, the answer had been sealed in her mind, and she didn't even have to wait for the class representative to finish the paper calmly. 3 of the 10 questions are wrong. For the top class, This result is considered a middle lower score. She lifted the paper and tapped the wrong place. The correct answer here should be 9 meters per second. Zhang Lili stuck a mouthful of old blood in her throat, her face flushed. What the idiot is talking nonsense, what 9 meters per second, she really considers herself a schoolmaster. She pulled her own paper and stared at the blackboard nervously until the class representative wrote the correct answer, 9 meters per second. I go. What's the situation? Zhang Lili felt that she was going crazy. She checked it back and forth several times, and finally confirmed that the correct answer was indeed the same as that sissy said, it was 9 meters per second. Did this idiot suddenly get a hang of it? She doesn't believe it. After grabbing Xiaoxi's papers, Zhang Lili corrected the blackboard at the end. At the end of the grade, Zhang Lili's hands trembled. All right. Actually, it's all right. Zhang Lili stared at Xiaoxi like a monster. She was surprised. How come she suddenly became a student who had only scored 150 points in the 6 subjects? You lose. Xiaoxi leaned back in the chair lazily, staring at Zhang Lili, her dark eyes gleaming with strange light. Lost. Zhang Lili was taken aback, only then did she remember the words she had said. If you can get a correct answer, I will stand and listen to the class later. The national male god is a girl, Boss Fancy Pet Chapter 6, you didn't discuss it. Zhang Lili gritted her teeth, she will lose to a scumbag. There is a problem with your paper, you must have cheated. Can't afford to lose, don't speak big words. Xiaoxi snorted coldly. She used a little trick, but she had already written down the content of the paper, and she won't get it wrong in the future exams. Then I will ask the question, do you dare to answer it? Whatever. Looking at her so calm, Zhang Lili turned out a question and read it out. Although this question is different from the one on the paper, the formula used is the same, with little difference. Because I wrote down the contents of the papers, plus the foundation I learned in the previous life, I think about it, Xiaoxi quickly gave the answer. Zhang Lili's face is green, it seems that this waste will really happen. How could this be? This sissy achievement is obvious to all. In order to teach her a formula, the teacher explained all the questions that can use this formula, but what about the end? This waste is still not used during the exam, and he can't even draw inferences about it, and the teacher is half to death. Such a student can get full marks on the test. I didn't believe she killed her. Zhang Lili gritted her teeth and said, I still don't believe it. Yesterday the teacher asked you to answer the question without a single word. How could you suddenly get full marks today? Yes, I really couldn't say a word yesterday. The students whispered. Today's full score is indeed abnormal. Copy every test, how stupid it is. Everyone is more and more sure that Xiaoxi cheated. Is really contemptuous. Xiaoxi narrowed her eyes and swept across the classroom coldly, the noisy sound instantly suppressed a lot. Because they suddenly discovered that the eyes of this little scum are so sharp. Xiaoxi, what is going on? The students were filled with outrage, Wenjue had no choice but to ask for an explanation. If it is really cheating, it is deceiving himself. Xiaoxi stood up, the corner of her lips smiled openly and provocatively. Teacher, as long as I can prove that I can do it, right? She stood up indifferently, pulled out a blank scroll from the podium, and furiously wrote in front of everyone. Even without blood jade, she can solve the problem without any problems. These things have been learned in a past life, but now the super memory helps her consolidate, no matter how many times she does it, she will not be wrong. The classroom gradually calmed down. The students looked at Xiaoxi, who was answering the questions quickly, in shock. They picked up the test papers and checked them one by one. Yes, every question is answered perfectly. If you say it is plagiarism, you will surely show your feet after taking the test again, right? It can be seen that Xiaoxi's posture in answering the question is calm and graceful, and there is no way of racking his brains. Is it super relaxing? The top students in the class can't help but you look at me, I look at you. There are a few answers to this question. They are not easy to answer, but looking at others, it is really easy to do. Where is the scumbag? It's simply a schoolmaster. Even the top 10 top students in the grade, at this moment, looked at Xiaoxi dumbfounded, looking like a monster. Everyone can't believe what happened today. This waste residue, it seems that I can do it. When Xiaoxi finished writing the last word, the class immediately fell into silence. Even Zhang Lili opened her mouth wide, and she kept shaking while pinching the redo paper. It's impossible to cheat a second time, right? This waste residue can't be made after taking hormones. Or, in the past 2 years of high school, she was just hiding herself. Otherwise, what is this impeccable problem-solving step? The national male god is a girl, Boss Fancy Pet Chapter 7, if you don't want to get close to me, just get out. My god, the steps to solve the problem are all right, and there are many solutions to many problems. And I think it's easier than the method I learned. Would you like to be so awesome? When Zhuo was also completely shocked, she looked at Xiaoxi dumbfounded, and only reacted after a long time. Sit down. God, my goodness. When Zhuo's heart was still beating and plopping, she subconsciously clutched her chest, and a little surprise suddenly rose in her heart. This student has always been her biggest headache, but it seems that from today, she will be the most pleasantly surprised. Gosh! What to do? Why does she feel so unrealistic? When Zhuo excitedly picked up the chalk, and finished today's course in an unusually high-profile manner. After class, Xiaoxi touched her belly. In fact, she was hungry after activating the abilities. Blood Jade, something like Blood Jade, originally needed a lot of energy to use. When she used to be a mercenary, she was able to travel around the world to collect energy gems that could supply Blood Jade, but now she doesn't have this ability. Blood Jade starts to consume her physical energy instead. In addition, this weak body is about to die, so naturally he is hungry quickly. It seems that I need to go to the cafeteria as soon as possible to replenish my energy. Fumbling out the meal card from her school bag, Xiaoxi got up and walked out slowly. Xiaoxi, are you going to eat? Because of her performance in class, a little girl couldn't help but greet her. Xiaoxi smiled, yes, go early, or the good food will be sold out. The little girl stayed in a daze. By the way, was Xiaoxi so good-looking before? Today I thought she was a little handsome. What's going on? What kind of outfit? It's disgusting. Next to, a handsome boy gave a cold snort, got up and stared at Xiaoxi coldly. Why do you forget the time when you bullied Jingran? What kind of warm guy is here now? Xiaoxi finds it ridiculous, bullying Xia Jingran. It seems to have always bullied her. As for the reason, the two of them are half-parents, Xia Jingran, the daughter of a junior third. They want to be in charge with a lifeless attitude, and of course they will punish her. It's just that this woman pretends to be too similar, and the image of a white lotus on her face is so beautiful, so Xiaoxi's reputation in school is really not very good. As for Meng Chaoyang, Xia Jingran's childhood sweetheart, it is not an exaggeration to say that he is a lover, so Xiaoxi automatically treats him as a fan of the brain, and without looking at it, she raises her leg and walks forward. Also, please get out of the key class. Here, it is not your kind of scumbag who can come in, you will lower our total score. Meng Chaoyang's words made many students look up. The information revealed in the eyes of some of them was obviously similar to that of Meng Chaoyang. It's all, scumbag, get out of the key class. The little girl who said hello was very worried and looked at Xiaoxi subconsciously. I thought she would be persuaded, but Xiaoxi smiled unexpectedly. Her delicate facial features were gorgeous and splendid, and the whole classroom seemed to be a lot brighter for a while. Don't want me to stay? Yes, I will either refund the fee or get out. She also spent money. Although the original owner is a scumbag, but the adult who supports her is not wrong, right? If you want to let her go, you can pay the tuition, otherwise, just get out of you. The school is not opened by your family. Leng Leng left a word, Xiaoxi turned and left, leaving behind a class of people, and it took a long time to react from the sluggishness. This scum, why are you so confident today? Hey, the school is not run by your family, why did you let her go? If you have the ability, you can talk to the principal. The little girl snorted, and many students lowered their heads and continued to read. Indeed, the principal didn't say anything. What qualifications do they have for students? The national male god is a girl, Boss Fancy Pet Chapter 8, Blacklist. Shao she. A little fat man caught up with her panting, and reached out to put his hand directly on her shoulder. Su Tao glanced at Xia Shi as he wiped his sweat, and was immediately stunned. Are you Xia Shi? I don't want to look like, the height is correct, and the facial features are very similar, but today's people look very refreshing, showing a bit of handsome. If you were talking about Su Qing's son, it would be me. Xia Shi squinted her eyes, her tone was indifferent and calm. Where is there a little bit of counsel? Su Tao can fit 2 eggs in his mouth. What happened this morning? Are you really? Su Tao is still a little bit disbelieved. You are my distant relative. In the ordinary class, the best subject is politics, and the worst subject is English. The biggest worry is that I have not grown any hair yet. Fuck, don't talk about this kind of thing, can't you know that you are Xia Shi? Su Xiaopeng covered Xia Shi's mouth, and said, yes, I believe you, you are not a ghost, you are the deity. This kind of thing only known to friends who grew up with bare butts, who else knows if it is not the deity? Unless heck. Go to eat, I am starving to death. Walking into the canteen, Xia Shi directly ordered 2 meals and walked back to the dining table in her arms. Su Tao took the time to glance, tall, full, 2 dishes, but there is more meat than vegetables. Why do you eat so much today? Before, Xia Shi's appetite was not as big as her sister's paper. She was full of rice in 1 bite. She usually only eats vegetables and never touches any meat. I made 2 meals today. Fuck, did Xia Shi take the wrong medicine today? Xia Shi ignored him. She was hungry. The blood jade consumed her too much energy. She had to rely on eating to make up for it, but this is not a solution. The best thing is to find the energy spar to ensure smooth use. Wow, look, it's from Class S. Ah, Haotian. I see Haotian. Young Master Zhan. Young Master Zhan is so handsome. A group of people walked into the canteen and immediately attracted all the attention. Xia Shi raised her head and glanced. The visitor was wearing a navy blue school uniform shirt and beige pants that were completely different from them, and there was an elite atmosphere all over her body. One of them is particularly cool and handsome. The school uniform outlines a tall figure with sleeves. His dark eyes are gloomy and indifferent. The high-definition background makes him unmatched in beauty, like a tall noble sun. Isn't this the person outside the warehouse? Xia Shi silently lowered her head and ate. In short, he can't let him see himself. Young war. As the girls screamed wildly, the boys turned around indifferently and went to the private room on the 2nd floor. That is where the elites eat. The high class is divided into 3 categories, the key class, the ordinary class, and the other is the S class, which is the elite class in the mouth of the students. The ordinary classes are students with mediocre grades, the key classes are top students, and the S class is a class where the elites gather. Ling Haotian, for example, is the most famous little king of the day. He has just won the Best Newcomer award this year and has a bright future. As for the young warrior, it is said that his family is very rich. Some people say that his family is in politics. Others say that his family is actually the largest wealthy businessman in S. Some people even say that he is the prince of a certain country. As for what it is, no one knows. However, what these people are has nothing to do with her. Xia Shi didn't want to have anything to do with these people. But she didn't know that she had been on someone's blacklist because of a pseudonym. The national male god is a girl, Boss Fancy Pet Chapter 9, Long-Winded Egg. Hey, this is not your location, get out. Someone waved her hand and swept her lunch box to the ground, spilling out all the good food, which is a pity. With one foot on the seat next to him, Feng Feng stared at Xia Shi arrogantly. Behind him were a few students who looked like scumbags, all staring at her with bad looks. Hey, madman, what is this for? If you have something to discuss. When Su Tao saw someone coming, he immediately accompanied him with a smile. Feng Feng looked at Xia Shi with a sneer, and discussed a fart. He was here to find the fault. Before class, he said he was a dog. There is no end to this. Good discussion. Feng Feng stretched out his hand and patted Su Tao's fat face. Okay, as long as you get out of the way, this matter is easy to discuss. Su Tao's face was stiff with a smile, and his heart was extremely nervous, because he knew that there was no end to this. Su Tao desperately winked Xia Shi's eyes, but someone just turned his head and looked at his overturned meal. Elder brother. When is it? Food is important or people are important? Su Tao is going crazy. Seeing that he was ignored, Feng Feng slammed a fist on the dining table. The loud bang made the surrounding students tremble. Everyone is afraid of Feng Feng. This is a fact, because this gangster has committed many violent incidents, not only fighting, but also receiving protection fees from students. Although everyone doesn't like him, because they can't resist, they can only endure silently. But this time, they are even more sure that it must be Xia Shi who is unlucky today, who caused her to provoke Feng Feng. Boy, I will let you go. Crazy man, this scum is probably already scared to pee, his legs are soft, and he can't stand up. Zhang Lili came over with a meal and stared at Xia Shi bitterly. If my legs are weak, I have to get out of the way. In this position, I have the master. Feng Fengxian smiled and stared at the person in front of him. Xia Shi narrowed her eyes and stood up slowly. Feng Feng laughed triumphantly when she gave in obediently. Zhang Lili also laughed. Dead scum, why don't you cry? Being so arrogant in the classroom, when you come out to see a lunatic. But, really thought it would be okay if you let it go. Today's beating, you are settled. Feng Feng pointed at his hips with an arrogant expression. From here, get out. Ha ha ha, yes, give our boss a crotch. Do you like men as a mother? Give you a chance to get in touch. Mom, kneel down and roll one. The gangsters yelled. Su Tao couldn't listen anymore, and said with a shaking voice, Brother, can we just roll? Just don't wear the crotch or something. Boom. A punch to the face. Su Tao's face was like a flower, blood flowing. Wow. Feng Feng took a sip. The smell of blood made the entire cafeteria dignified, and the surrounding students avoided their sight. Even if you are friends with Xiao Shi, you will be beaten. Xia Shi is really over today. While the students were sorry, Xia Shi, who had been silent for a long time, suddenly moved, and his fist fell on Feng Feng's face with a wild laugh. When the laughter stopped abruptly, blood was splashed. In that situation, Bai Su Tao is even more tragic. Boom! The boy's tough body smashed on the floor, and the who had abused countless people was lying with his face in his hands, and there was only a moan left. At that moment, the whole cafeteria was quiet. The students stared at the scene in front of them dumbfounded, and many even rubbed their eyes vigorously. My God, what happened just now? The national male god is a girl, Boss Fancy Pet Chapter 10, Beat Hard. With a gasp, Xia Shi frowned. She picked a place that was more fragile and prone to bleeding, but her hand was still sore. TSK, this weak body, even the fight was dragged back. How about it? Su Tao is still being forced, his eyes rounded and his mouth wide open, staring at Xia Shi, feeling that everything that happened today is like a dream. Who can tell him why Xiao Sisi, who is weak, can kill Feng Mozi with a punch? Is he dreaming, or the world is so mysterious? Xia Shi frowned slightly, making Su Tao's calf tremble with an ah, and reacted instantly. It's okay. He touched his face, he had a nosebleed, his nose was very painful, and everything else seemed to be fine. Go to the infirmary by yourself in a while. Oh. Xiao Shi is worried about him. Su Tao felt a little bit happy in his heart. Xia Shi stared at the people on the ground, walked to Feng Feng expressionlessly, stepped on the person with one foot, leaned over and stared at him, her black pupils condensed. This is your and my problem, it has nothing to do with my friends, find the fault, come to me. Xiao Shi really did it for him. Su Tao immediately felt a warm current in his heart, and the whole person was moved. In the past, Xiao Shi never thought of him, and even dismissed him as a fat man. How could he be so good to him today? Xiao Shi is really righteous. Yeah, I didn't expect her to be so good to her friends. Many people immediately felt a little more fond of Xiao Shi, and somewhat envied the little fat man Su Tao. Yes, there are kinds of you waiting for me. Feng Feng gritted his teeth. He was planted today, but he will definitely find his place. Okay, I'll wait for you. Xia Shi looked indifferent. Although Su Tao is a distant relative, he has been protecting her since she was a child. What can be done to her, but she can't move her friends. What are you guys wondering about? Zhang Lili was in a hurry. She thought that Xia Shi would be abused, but in the end it was a lunatic who was abused, this group of incompetent bastards. The attendant reacted and clamored to avenge his eldest brother. Xia Shi let out a cold snort, and shook the blood jade on her neck with her fingers. A trace of strength penetrated her body. Although it was weaker, she was able to deal with several gangsters with ease. I saw Xia Shi making a sharp turnaround and kicking, puff and puff a few times. The person who rushed over was kicked out, fell heavily to the ground, and could not get up again. Then, she slowly raised her head, her eyes falling on Zhang Lili. At that moment, Zhang Lili felt as if she was being stared at by the devil, and her face turned pale. You, what are you going to do? You don't have to always aim at me, I have no interest in all of you at all. She is no longer the original Xia Shi. Whether it's a waste or a pervert, what does it have to do with her, fart? Zhang Lili raised her voice. Do you think I would believe? A pervert, not only bullying our sister Jing Ran, but also having an ambiguous relationship with Meng Chaoyang. Ambiguous relationship? She and Meng Chaoyang have known each other since childhood. What is an ambiguous relationship? But it was Xia Jingran who was talking nonsense there again, that's why she was misunderstood. Get out of the way, what are you all around here for? A short, fat, half-bald middle-aged man walked out from the students, and it was Song Lei, the head of the department. He saw the blood on Feng Feng's face and immediately angrily said, "What's the matter, who is fighting?"